Hello everyone and welcome to the Round 8 preview of NRL SuperCoach 2023. Thought I'd cut short the intro lobby a little bit. Unfortunately, I can't use the same music anymore, so hopefully if you all liked, well not hopefully, but if you all enjoyed that music I had, I can't use it anymore. YouTube won't let me use it, so I have to mute it or I have to find a new song. So I'll be on the lookout for some new music, but no more nice pleasant lobby music for the time being. But we're not here for lobby music. We are here to chat NRL SuperCoach and the footy. Hope you're all keen on this TLT Tuesday. Hello to everyone in the chat already. Laws, what will you do? Ian, as always. Tyler, Joel, Jason Yang, Lockie, Aaron, Jaden, Joel. I think I mentioned Joel's name already. Nathan, Martin. Lots of people in the chat, which is good to see. But yeah, sorry, Jason. So nostalgic, that music. Yeah, look, we'll try to bring some music back that's hopefully better than what we had. But unfortunately, can't use it anymore. But I hope you're all doing okay. Obviously, big TLT with lots of things dropping this week. So yeah, lots to dig our teeth into. Obviously, Karaz, a big one. Tom J, I can see Tom J in the chat. I can't believe how much I need to shout out Tom J for gifting people members. Any new members in the stream? Please, I hope that you guys can use the new emoji that I created. It says Tom J gifted me this members or something like that. It's basically something to shout out Tom J for his generosity over the last fortnight or the two streams. So if you're a recent member and Tom J gifted you this membership, please spam that emoji. Tom J, thank you so much. And Isaac, the $10 donation, really appreciate that. This is for the time and effort that you put into your content each week. Thank you, Man. Look, I really appreciate that. Absolutely no need for the donations. Obviously, I do appreciate it, but look, doing it for the fun of it. It's great that I can obviously spend time doing this, and there's enough people out there who are keen to watch and stuff. It just really makes it worthwhile. But yeah, really appreciate that. Poem for Tom J. I still haven't worked on the poem, sorry Ian, still haven't been able to work on it yet. Work's been a bit busy, but I guarantee that Tom J will get a poem from me sometime during this season, and I will put some thought into it so I do him justice, basically. Anyway, enough of the intro stuff. I'll quickly just get into how I went last week. If you weren't aware, low scoring round, only 10-11 from me. Went down a little bit rank wise, so it's 17.9k, which is not great, but hopefully onwards and upwards, and I am going to try to optimize through the buys, I think, hopefully to kind of push ahead in ranks. I've only used the one boost so far. Good chance I will be boosting this week. I know I've said that the last few weeks, but I've looked at a couple of trade scenarios and I do think the boost looks quite nice for me. So I think I will be probably boosting this week, and I think hopefully after that I can maybe settle down on the trades, maybe start saving a few up until the kind of round 13 period. And a shout out as well to those in the group. Dat from Composed Carrot Guns with a pretty big score of 1209 last week. And shout out as well to our top 10 for all being in the top round 250, which is a great ranking to be at this stage. Nick, highest ranked at 42 overall. So do join the group as well. We'll be giving little giveaways throughout the season as well, whenever I feel like it, basically. But still got a few more goodies that I am looking to pass on. So do join the league if you haven't already. Gazaraki says, can you promise me a poem? Thank you for the donation, by the way, Gazaraki, $2. Can you promise me a poem if Manu turns up? Well, so I may as well just say it now that you mentioned it. So obviously the schedule's a little bit weird next week with the whole Anzac Day thing. So we've got 2 games next Tuesday. I'll actually be going overseas from Wednesday next week for about a couple of weeks. So unfortunately, there's not going to actually be any round 9 preview stream like how I normally do it. Unfortunately, I'll be away all Wednesday, and being overseas, it's going to be quite tough for me to put together content. So sorry to anyone who I really appreciate if you do like to tune in for these on a week-to-week basis. And so I'll be able to watch that game on Tuesday. So yeah, if Gazaraki, I can promise you a poem if Manu turns up, because I might be pretty happy because there's a good chance that Manu will be in my team coming into this week. Speaking of Manu, we may as well, I think, get onto probably one of the hottest discussion points of the week, which is the bombshell, I guess, from the Roosters that Sam Walker's been dropped to reserve grade, and Joey Manu has been named at 5'8". And obviously that sent the SC community in a bit of a frenzy, because we know that Manu playing not at centre is a bit of a different animal. And yeah, we saw last season when he was playing either 5'8" or fullback, he was just insane for SuperCoach. He was already doing well playing at centres, but just being in the fullback or the 5'8" spot, he was just insane. And I think a lot of people are getting extra excited because last season, when he notoriously went 191, it was against the Dragons at home. Look who he's playing this week, it's the Dragons. So I think a lot of people are thinking back to that 191 that he got from last season. And look, I think, of course, he can do it. On this page, I did want to just bring up specifically Garrick and Manu. So Manu, you know what, before I get into all the chat, I'm seeing a few questions saying, where am I going? I will be going to Turkey, which is very exciting. I'll be going to Turkey for a couple of weeks. Never been. I doubt I'll probably ever go back to Turkey. So yeah, going for a couple of weeks. So that should be a nice little trip. I am so excited for the food. I cannot wait to just dig into Turkish food like gozleme, kebab. Apparently Turkish bread is not a thing actually in Turkey, but I love Turkish bread, and I just think it'll be awesome food. So I'm very excited for Turkey. Anyway, moving on from my personal holidays, surely there's something more interesting than that, which is, do we bring in Garrick or Manu? I like Manu this week because of those numbers that he gets when he's not playing at the center spot. I've got in below me the table his averages when he's played either at fullback or 5'8", so it's a bit of a mix of the two because I wanted to just kind of increase the sample size. There's about 11 games, 11 or more so games over the last few seasons where he's played outside of the center spot. There's some games where he's played at wing. I didn't include those ones. I wanted to strictly look at the fullback and 5'8" spot. Basically, his average when he's not playing, or he's playing in one of those two positions, is 95, and that's across now 4 seasons. Now, obviously, there's a big inflation because of that 191 from 2022, but honestly, I think even if I were to take that out, we're probably still looking at an 87 average still. So we know that he's very good when he plays in that position. The downside, I guess, is that how long is he going to be playing that spot is completely unknown. Walker could just be back next week. I think a lot of people are going to be appealed by the draw for the Roosters. Dragons matchup this week is probably what's the biggest appeal. Warriors is tough. Cowboys is looking decent. Penrith is obviously going to be tough. But then it's the Dragons again in round 12. Doesn't cover round 13, which is a bit of a bugger. But the fact that he covers, or the fact that he's got the Dragons at home this week makes him very appealing. Very good chance that he could, just playing at 5'8", the reason that he's so good is that he gets more touches of the ball and just more runs and just more, which means more tackle breaks and stuff. So really like Manu this week. I still think I would go Garrick over Manu though, if people haven't got either of the two. I just think Garrick is, one, he's playing round 13, so he's going to be someone that you'll definitely want for that week. Tigers, I mean, whoever saw the Tigers team list, it's a bit of a mess. Like the bench has got Dane Laurie and it's got Tommy Talau on it. They've put in a debutant at fullback. Staines is good, but they moved him to the wing. No Dewey now. It's just like, who knows what's going on there. So we think that Manly will probably play quite well in that game. So I like Garrick this week. Yes, he's got a high break even, but I think you can kind of ignore that. There's a very good chance he goes 100 plus. Just on Garrick's stats, specifically versus the West Tigers, his last 4 scores were 121, 113, 105 and 41. So last 3 games have been tons. So historically, he's done well against them. Every chance he goes 100 plus again this week. I just feel a bit more confident with him for this week, just with the matchup, goal kicking, but also just longer term. He's just much more secure, right? Compared to Manu, who potentially may not stick at that 5'8" spot. But Manu's obviously a bit more of a pod, which makes him appealing. But yeah, both of their break evens are high, but I still think I would go for Garrick. And in terms of Karaz, I did have a few people ask me on Twitter about would you hold him. I've just seen NRL Physio's updated tweet. It seems as though he will be out for 3 to 4 weeks confirmed, but there's every chance that he kind of stays out a little bit longer if he's not 100% yet. And then he's 651k, really high break even. And as soon as he comes back, he's going to have that 6 in his rolling average, will tank heaps in price. For me, Karaz is just a very, very easy sell. So I think Karaz 100%, you sell him if you own him. Unfortunate that he got that really low score because he kind of bled a lot of the cash that we made on him. But for me, Karaz to Garrick is the move that I would make. And then I would probably just after that go Manu instead of Garrick. For those kind of reasons that I mentioned. Don't really think I need to discuss them too much more. In my current trade plans, I am bringing both Garrick and Manu this week. I think I like the Manu matchup this week. I don't mind the little run that the Roosters have got. And we know with Manu that he was already approaching towards bottom in price. On Sunday stream, I wasn't super kind of keen on Manu. I think I was thinking like, have I seen enough from him yet? We'll come on to some centering pods a little bit later as well, but someone like Jackson Paulo is a very similar price. But there's even some talk that Paulo could be goal kicking without without Walker in the side. Hutchinson maybe can goal kick, but apparently Jackson Paulo does goal kick. So he could be an interesting pod if you are looking to go against Manu, but with the news that Manu's playing at 5'8", it just makes him really, really appealing. So for me, I think Manu's a fine trade in this week. We know the pedigree of the player. We expect him to get better, and he could eventually become a season keeper. So that's kind of where I stand, I think, on the Garrick Manu. I don't think I need to talk too much more about the two. I think most people kind of are pretty well across the two, but just wanted to pull some of those stats out about Manu playing outside of centre wing and also Garrick against the West Tigers, just in case there's anyone having any doubts. Just continuing on the topic of centre wings. So obviously a lot of people I think will be looking to downgrade. So just to prepare everyone, this section and the next section will all be about center wings. So if you've got questions that are non-center wing related, maybe just hold fire on that, because the next probably 10 or so minutes will be strictly about center wing. If you've got center wing questions, then great, keep them coming in. But just wanted to flag that. Then there'll be a lot of center wing discussion coming up in the next little bit, if I can talk correctly. So obviously a lot of us will probably own these 4 center wings. They were a hot topic last week. Again this week about, do we look to move on some of these guys and downgrade and make some cash. So Pereira, Alamotti, Warbrick and Taruva. I didn't end up selling any of these guys. Taruva wasn't someone I was thinking about selling. I've added him into the conversation now because we are starting to see enough of Isaac Tunga not passing it to Taruva. His base stats have also gone down a little bit from the beginning of the season. He is still 4th on my priority list to sell, purely just because round 9 is West Tigers. I will want to play him that week. And it's a good week because round 9 is when Melbourne have the bye. So if you're like a Grant owner, a Welch owner, you are probably going to have to rely on your squad. And so I think even thinking again about my own team as an example, I'll be bringing in Garrick and Manu most likely this week. So my centering is going to start looking pretty stacked. But it's good to have that depth there because we have buys coming up. And I think next week is a great time to play Taruva. So for me, Taruva is still 4th on the list. But I think after that round 9, the fact that he doesn't cover round... I've written round 12 twice there. That should obviously say round 13. But the fact that he doesn't cover round 13 makes me think, I think in round 10, Warriors, Roosters, Broncos, there may be a time where I still would look to move on Taruva. I don't think he'll leak a lot of cash. He's only got a 56 break even, which, next week against the Tigers, he could very easily go big. Warbrick, to be honest with Alamotti, I've now moved him below Warbrick. My main reason for thinking that is that he's just lower in value, 350k, and the break even of 52, it's kind of manageable. He's not going to leak, I think, a lot of cash this week. Neither will Warbrick, to be fair, but at least Warbrick is a little bit higher in value, and he has that buy in round 9. And I know the Bulldogs have been decimated with injuries, but I don't mind the little run of games that they've got after this week. Sharks is obviously tough, but Dragons is fine. Raiders have been somewhat leaky. Warriors is kind of tough, but it is a home game. Then it's the Titans. I kind of feel like, Alamotti could put a few scores together potentially during that period of time where at least he holds value. So he doesn't sit with me as a must sell. And neither does Warbrick. He's got a 44 break even, but Warriors this week is going to be a pretty tough matchup, and then it's going to be a bye, and then the games after don't look great either. And he doesn't cover none of these guys cover round 13. So for me, Warbrick feels fine to sell this week. I will probably be selling Warbrick this week and moving him on. And Pereira is a tough one because I think generally an average of 51, he is a hot and cold player. He does rely on tries, but there's no urgency to sell him either because I think that he's fine to hold. I'm looking at those games. Dolphins this week, he's got 4 tries against him in the trials, right, in the preseason. He can easily score a double in this week, score 60, and won't leak that much in cash. Could even go beyond the 73 break even. Manly were very good last week, but they can always kind of put in one of those performances where they concede points. Parramatta are leaky. Newcastle could be a game where he scores points, and the Bulldogs looks like a great matchup. So again, no urgency, I think, to sell Pereira. But the reason I'm looking to do it is because he's the highest value. He's almost 500k. Downgrade him, or you can use him as a stepping stone to Garrick and Manu. So that's kind of why I've got him ranked number 1 on the sells, purely just because of the value that's in him now. He's made us good coin, almost 300k. If I could do my trades and hold him, I probably would, because I think there's a chance that he still could maybe go up a little bit more. But for me personally, I do think that he will be someone I will look to move on this week. Just to answer this question about from Boogie, I'll answer Boogie's. Is Taruva and Warbrick still cheapies? Yeah, it's kind of, but I think Taruva, put it this way, Taruva still has, I think, more potential to go up in price just because he's playing for a good Panthers team. I know on the eye test, he's not getting the ball as much from Tungo, but we always know that the Panthers can score plenty of points. And Warbrick, similar thing with Melbourne, but we were seeing Melbourne and not really using him. The ball was just kind of not going past Eli Katoa, to be honest. Khan-Pereira, sit or play this week. I think if you've got Khan-Pereira and you're holding him, I mean, Dolphins are not an easy matchup. Like, they're getting a bit gritty and kind of not leaking too many points. Really, only the one game this season that they've kind of not been really in the contest was the Dragons matchup, which was a bit of a strange one. So, like, I'd probably play him over Taruva this week, put it that way. So if you're debating Taruva or Khan-Pereira, I'd probably play Khan-Pereira. Will you be ranking the best downgrade options for centre wing? Yes, we will be talking about downgrade options in a second. So yes, that's kind of, I think, maybe enough on these cheap centre wings. Moving on to some of the downgrade options. Now, this is a list of kind of a lot of the downgrade options, not just in centre wing, but I think the main ones to highlight probably are going to be Croker and Dunster. I think they're the two main downgrades that people are looking at. There was a couple of questions about Buller from the West Tigers. He's listed only at fullback in the game, and I think that just makes him an absolute no-go. And job security, there's absolutely no certainty that he'll stay there. The Tigers are just chopping and changing so much. Same with Declan Casey as well from the Bulldogs, who's been named on the wing for them. But Croker and Dunster, I think the two main centre wing downgrades. I know last week I was a little bit higher on Tom Eisenhuth. He picked up a bit of a knock. He has been named again, which is encouraging, but I think with a break even of 34, he's not a must-buy this week as a downgrade, and Croker is a little bit cheaper than him. Eisenhuth is now like 296k, so I'd probably, again, look to go to Croker. Of the two, I think Dunster is the better downgrade. One is he's cheaper. He's 40k cheaper, so I think that just obviously is good. You can free up a bit more cash going to him. He has been named to start, even despite Bailey Simonson coming back into the squad. Simonson has been named on the extended bench, which is a bit of an annoyance. Fortunately, the Eels play early in the round. They play the second game, Friday, 8 p.m. So we should find out relatively early on, hopefully to help with your trades and trade plans, if he gets named to start again. And hopefully we find out as well in the 24-hour cuts, 24 hours before so basically on Thursday, 8 o'clock, which is actually almost just about in the time for lockout for the whole round. If Simonson gets cut, that obviously makes life a bit easier, because then we know that Simonson is more likely to be, we know that Dunster is more likely to be playing. I've heard some talk that Dunster has won that spot on merit. I still don't 100% know, but yeah, I think with me, Dunster, the hope is that, like, there's a good chance both lose their spots, put it that way. Xavier Savage could come back for the Raiders, Seb Chris moves to the centres, and that's it. Dunster, he could be out, Simonson can come back in, so both of them could already become nuffs, put it that, like, the job security is pretty poor. So at least if that's the case for both of them, at least you've gone with a guy who's cheaper, so you've freed up a bit more money going down to him, and in the outside chance that he does keep that spot, he covers round 13, so there's a potential that you just get an extra buy number in that week. So that's kind of the couple of reasons why I'm leaning towards Dunster. It's not even really about break-even. He's got a break-even of 38. Like, I don't love him as a downgrade, but he's kind of the only one really in the centre wing, apart from just straight nothing to, like, say, a Jack Howarth. I don't love the idea of purposely nothing, because there's a good chance that some of these cheapies that you bring in will kind of fall out of the team anyway. But I think the fact that he's got an outside chance of covering round 13 makes me think that he's probably the one I'd still slightly lean towards. Jared Croker with the goal kicking is a no-brainer. Maybe, but like after next week, he could just not be in the team altogether. And for me, the way I see it is that, look, if Croker gets named again and, the break even looks enticing, or we hear something that makes me think that he's more locked in job security-wise, look, I can move on maybe to Ruva. Oh, actually, I wouldn't do it next week, sorry, because Truva's got the Tigers. Maybe Alamotti. Maybe I move on to Alamotti. Or I just let it pass, because you can't get everyone. But I think for this week, it's probably Dunster for me, just because, yeah, lower price. He hasn't looked good. Incenti says Dunster's going to burn you all. He's looked awful, unfortunately. I'm not so sure he will keep his spot. I mean, look, yeah, I agree. The numbers are not encouraging. He scored 7 the week before last, and it was like, what, 15, and the ball's not going to him because Will Penasini, who's been absolutely killing it, he doesn't need to pass it. He can just do it all himself. So Dunster really hasn't had to do much. He scored 27 last week, which is, look, 27 points. If you can keep a spot. Yeah, so for me, I think I will go with Dunster of the two, just for the off chance that he keeps a spot and can cover round 13 for you. That's really my only rationale, because I don't love the idea of purposely nothing. I'll probably move on from this quickly just because I want to keep talking about centre wings, just given that it's the kind of the topic of discussion. Toolpro says Kotrick is injured. That is definitely true. So yeah, he has been injured. I'd be curious to see what NRL Physio has said on his length of time away from the game based on injury. But yeah, I guess if Kotrick is injured, you could have Xavier Savage move into the wing, because I think Savage has been playing on the wing, and then you could have you could keep Seb Chris at fullback, and then maybe Croker stays. So that's true. Maybe I should just have a double check about that injury just to see how long he's gone for, because okay, Scan says, okay, I found the tweet from April 17th. So yeah, another hamstring injury. Scan's determined severity, but even a minor strain is at least 2 to 3 weeks. So we haven't really got an update. It sounds like at minimum it's 2 to 3 weeks. And it could be even longer if that strain is even more serious. So yeah, that does make me think a little bit differently about Croker. But I think for this week in particular, if you have to go for someone this week, it's probably still going to be Dunster, I think, for me. But anyway, that's where we're at the moment. There's no great option, to be honest. And just now on, I think, broader topic of other centre wings. So seeing a few people in the chat talking about the likes of Saab, Junior Tupou from the West Tigers. I haven't mentioned either of those two in this kind of section here, but Tupou I'm not loving, just because I think the West Tigers is just a bit of a basket case. Like, he is good himself, but in that Tigers team, I just can't go for him. He's not even cheap. I think he's like 450k. So he's got a low break even from memory, because I think he had a pretty good score against the Parramatta Eels last week. Yeah, 111. Minus 27 break even. So look, he'll make some money, but like, it's Manly this week, then it's Penrith. Like, his cash growth could just get stunted straight away if he goes like, I don't know, 20 and 20. So for me, probably not going to be one I would go for. And Saab, I haven't really considered Saab. I do have another Manly player in this list here. If you look below me, I've got Morgan Harper. Don't laugh, but I was looking at Morgan Harper and I was like, his stats are okay. The 3 games he's played, he's got base of 40, 32, and 40. Now it's pretty good for a centre wing, and he's sub 500k. So look, if you want to go for a pod and you're a Manly fan, maybe you can go Morgan Harper. Maybe Saab could be there as well. No fodder for Jackson Paulo, mate. You always calling me out on the pictures. I couldn't find a picture. Am I gonna have to do this live again? I swear I googled Jackson Paulo Roosters and I didn't like any of the pictures. Okay, you know what? Stuff it. We'll do this. All right, we're doing it again, because there's no photo of him where they stand nicely like this when you get in all the other team lists. But you know what? We're gonna do it live on air. You guys seem to like it with Greg Marzu, so we'll give Paulo his justice and we'll get him his picture. All right. Goodbye, blank man. Hello, Jackson. You guys happy? Jackson smiling, looking a little. We're gonna make him equal size, surely. There you go. Yeah, you happy? You're all happy. Jackson Paulo's smiling there, looking at us now. All right, done. Yeah, so Harper's someone to think about. In terms of other centre wings, To'o's been good recently, but by round 13 Origin, I don't think I'll be personally going with To'o. I think I would be trying to go for someone who's got maybe a better draw, or maybe someone who covers round 13. So just on the topic of Paulo, since we've just been adjusting his picture, coming into this week before TLT, I would have actually said go for Paulo as more of a pod over Manu, because there's a chance that he's goal kicking the wing. He's actually been good this season as well for the Chooks in terms of just scoring tries. But I think now with Manu around the same price at 5'8", he's probably the one I think majority of people are going to go to. But if you're not interested in Manu, but you like the Roosters draw with Dragons this week, Paulo could be the pod that you might want to consider, because there's a chance he could be goal kicking. Also has a high break even. So I think if you're straight pod chasing, then yeah, look, maybe he's the one that you that you go for. I know people are looking at the likes of maybe not so much Mazu. Whoa, hold up. Tom J, you've done it again. What is going on here? You have gifted 50 memberships. I can't believe this. You did 20, 20, now 50. Oh my lord. You lucky buggers. I think you guys just need to keep watching the streams now. Just there's a chance you're going to get a free membership from Tom J. Tom J, you are too generous. Mate, send me an email or DM me or something. I need to have a proper chat with you, because I feel this is I'm not doing you justice just shouting out your name. You've done it again. 50. What is going on here? What are you doing? You just gifted 100 memberships, 100 more people who can spam some emojis, and I guess you get access to the buy planner spreadsheet. That's it. But yeah, holy moly, I gotta take a break here. This is insane. And apologies, because anyone who's asked questions, your questions now just move straight to the top, because I'm getting a message every time someone else gets a membership. So yeah, wowza. Anyone who has just been bequeathed a membership from Tom J, please use that emoji. I created that emoji just for Tom J, which was Tom J gifted me this. Please use it. And yeah, given the what a Manu, what a Manu is appropriate, especially if Manu goes big this week too. What a man, what a Manu, Tom J, all the accolades. I can't even think about a poem. There's not enough people. That's the thing. There's only 155 people. 55 of you unlucky souls probably didn't get a membership, but that's all right. Look, at this rate, everyone's getting one because of Tom J. Tom J is the Oprah of the NRL SuperCoach community. You get a membership. You get a membership. You get a membership. But yeah, give lots of love to Tom in the chat, being awesome. And yeah, give the stream a like as well. Thank you, Incentia, for saying that on my behalf. Anyway, where were we? This is going to sound awful on the audio for anyone who's listening on this on Spotify, but Centerwings, other Centerwing pods. Sharkies, Mulatalo, Katoa, people might be looking at them too. I still think Mulatalo is the better option. I think he's just more likely to get tries and attacking stats compared to Katoa. But really, 200k difference. I don't think there's a 200k difference in price between what they're going to score. So I prefer Mulatalo. So if you've got the cash, I'd go him. But if you don't, then I think Katoa is more than fine. More than fine, because he's got not a great average of 44, but equally good draw, and plays on the right hand side with Nico Hines, likes to play as well. So I like Katoa for 200k cheaper. But I think if you've got the cash, go Mulatalo. Campbell Graham just feels a bit too pricey now at 781k, and the draw is not great for the next 3 rounds. So if he goes like 40, 50, 40 in the next 3 weeks, he should start losing some money. Maybe you can consider him in round 11 when he's got Tigers, Parramatta, Canberra. And maybe by then as well, you'll have a better idea if he's going to play Origin. There's a lot of talk that he'll play Origin this season, potentially on the wing, and then he might not be available for round 13. Mazu, wouldn't be buying him now at this stage, just with the draw that the Knights have got, and they've got a buy in round 10. But maybe someone in round 11 with Titans, Sharks, Manly, if it looks like the return of Ponga, who's obviously been named again. If Ponga is back and feeding that left-hand side, then Mazu is going to profit from that. So I do like Mazu as an option, but as a buy, probably not. I'd probably go a little bit different and probably go with Mulatalo or Katoa, or maybe Jackson Paulo. And I think most people are going to be considering the likes of Garrick or Manu at this stage anyway. Shot says Manu isn't there. We just had a section about 10-15 minutes ago where we spoke more in detail about Garrick and Manu. I wanted to kind of cover them off separately because I think they were two of the main talking points from this week. So that's the reason why they're not on this particular slide here. So that kind of covers off some of my initial thoughts on these center wings. Below me, I've got a list of other options who I didn't want to put as much stats into, but maybe players who are a bit more poddy as well. So I've got Meany, but Meany, I think with a buy around 9, doesn't make him really an option to buy at this stage. I've got Hamiso and Asako just because I didn't feel like I wanted to exclude them because they've been killing it. They also have a buy, I think, in round 11. So I think with a buy coming up in the next 4 or so weeks, I would probably just leave them for now for the time being and hope to maybe jump back on them. Hamiso could maybe feature on the Origin scene for Queensland, but no guarantee. I've got Lockie Miller, but he's very expensive at 750k. The draw is not ideal. So again, one I'd probably look into Antipod. Will Penasini is a very interesting one at 613k. I think there was a question about him earlier. I do like him as a shout. I think if you're kind of maybe wanting to go for that round 13 covering player with a decent draw, the Parramatta Eels do have a pretty solid draw. So just bring up this buy planner spreadsheet, which now you should all actually have access to. Not all of you, but all you members, you will have access to this. Go check the member page on my YouTube channel. You should have access to this spreadsheet where you can fiddle around with rotating draws and all this kind of stuff and buy plan. But yeah, so looking at the Parramatta draw, you've got what have you got? You've got Broncos this week, but then it's Newcastle, Titans, Canberra, South, and then the Cowboys in round 13, who would lose some players to Origin like Val, Cotter. So they could be a pretty weak team as well. So I like Penasini. I like his stats as well, just diving into him a little bit more. He's always had pretty good base stats. He was obviously a very popular cheapie last season, so I think a lot of us are pretty familiar with him from a SuperCoach standpoint. But just quickly pulling up his stats from NRL SuperCoach Stats, he's got base stat average of 37 this season, which is tremendous. I'm looking at for the last kind of 5 weeks, 41, 42, 33, 39, 41 in base. So his floor is really good. You add in a few tackle busts, and he's probably getting around 50 at minimum, but he's shown some attacking upside as well. So I think at his price tag at 613k, it's a good price. He's got a low break even of 13, so he's probably not really someone you look at as a pure moneymaker, but job security is there. He will definitely play barring any injury, and could be a nice solid option. I prefer him to Micah Sevo. So I have Sevo on this list. Oh, so actually I don't have Sevo on this list. Sevo is just a bit too hot and cold for me. Like, he scored a double last week, and one try was very, very late, and he scored 66. Like, he just doesn't have good base stats, and I know he's got high ceiling, but I think I haven't seen enough yet out of Parramatta to suggest that they're going to be that team that will just continually rack up points, which means Sevo for me just becomes, it feels a bit of a stretch, whereas Penasini with good base stats, at least, if the Eels have an off game, which I think they're very capable of doing just every now and then, you still think he'll go and be good for 50. So I like him in that sense over Sevo, his counterpart. Jack Bird and Zach Lomax, a couple of Dragons players I wanted to shout out as well. Not really too keen on Lomax at this stage. 54 average is fine, but he's not quite hitting the heights that we would expect from him as a proven or previous Supercoach gun. Jack Bird has been fine. I like Jack Bird for the fact that he's sub 600k, he's dual, and will cover round 13. It just doesn't really excite me. I feel like a lot of these other guys, like maybe a Paulo, who maybe a Sharks back, maybe like a Talakai, maybe a Penasini. I'd rather just target a player who I think will play in a team that was more likely to score the points. Dragons just don't strike me as that type of team, which is kind of why I'm not looking at him as much, but I do like his duel. If you're looking for, like, the duel is really understated. Like, it is a very important thing. But for me, I still think I'd look to target some of these other guys. There was a question on Talakai, I think, just there from Rodders now. What about Talakai? Someone did ask me this on Twitter as well. I think he's about 530k. Just gonna have a quick look. 590k. So he's 590k. I think if you're not going with Mulatalo, I would just go Katoa, who's even cheaper. I just prefer having the winger. Just more chance at higher upside. I think just watching the Sharks, they really do seem to like that sweep play or Hines cutout pass to Katoa. Raymond and Talakai are good, solid base set guys who will have occasional games where they go big, but I think consistently I'd rather just target the wingers from the Sharks team in particular. Talakai hasn't scored a try yet this season. On the one hand, you could say he's due. I personally think that that's kind of just the nature of how the Sharks attack, and that he's not generally scoring a lot of tries. So for me, I still think I'd prefer the wingers, and I've already mentioned Morgan Harper. But that's basically, I think, my full deep dive on centre wings. We spent about 30 minutes of the stream talking purely centre wings, but I did think it was a big discussion point for this week. Just on Val, I'm seeing a few people talking about, is it time to sell Val? I was chatting about this with someone else earlier, actually, on Twitter. I do think that I would prefer Garrick and Manu to Val at this stage. But Val still doesn't feel like an easy sell. Dolphins this week is not Dolphins. I'm looking at what is it? It's the Knights this week, which is a decent game on paper. Sharks and Roosters is tough, but I'm just looking. I'm sorry, Tigers fans. I keep harping on about it, but any time that an attacking player is versing the Tigers, I want to try to have that player. And then coming out of round 11 and 12 with the Dragons and Tigers, he will probably miss round 13 because of Origin. And I think there was a question about this earlier. Sorry, Origin players will miss round 13, irrespective of if their team plays or not, because Origin round 13 is when they go into camp for Origin. So Val Holmes, you'd expect, would miss round 13. But for me, the way I see it is that I think I'm just going to hold him until round 12, include him for that Tigers game, and then round 13, I will probably flick him. Because if you look at the period of time in between, misses round 13, has Melbourne round 14, has a bye, Penrith, Rabbitohs, it's the Tigers again, but then it's another bye. I don't think I'll be owning him in that little period there in Origin. So for me, I will be selling Val, I think, in round 13. Probably not someone I'll hold, but I don't think for me yet he's a sell. If he was your only option to get Garrick this week, I'd probably do it. I wouldn't sell him for Manu. I don't feel as strongly about Manu as I do Garrick this week. So for me, I would sell Val to Garrick if he's your only way to get there. If it's for Manu, probably not. But he will be sold for me, I think, in Origin time. All right, I think that's enough on centre wings. There's plenty of other stuff to get into. A few questions about fullbacks. So there's one I think that I just saw in the chat, which was, let me just find it, from Steve Caroy. Walsh a sell, thinking he has peaked in price. I pulled a couple of other questions from Twitter. Walsh to Turbo, Walsh to Tedesco, Latrell to Turbo. I still don't think I will be selling Reece Walsh this week. I know he probably has peaked in price, but actually not really. I don't think he's peaked in price because I like a matchup against Parramatta as a fullback. I think there's good opportunity for him to still score well this week, and he's just been absolutely killing it, right? Like an average of 95 is absolutely insane. The draw is tough now, or it's getting tougher. Souths and then Manly. I think for me, I will probably want to see 1, maybe 2 weeks of poor scores, and then maybe I'll look to move him on. I don't think the price, I'm going to try to have that dictate my thinking as much, because while Walsh to Tedesco would free up like 200k, and it's a really good game for Tedesco this week. The Dragons conceded, I think, the most points to fullbacks. I don't think I'd be doing that move personally. I still don't feel that Teddy is at peak form, whereas Walsh is top of his game. I think just trust the form and ignore the draw to an extent. We saw this with Latrell at the back end of last season. The draw didn't really matter. He still scored very well. I kind of feel like Walsh is playing in that kind of form. But I think if he does, because he has got the ability to drop one of those kind of 35, 40 point games, if that happens and doesn't look great eye test wise, I'll probably maybe look to move him on then. The Broncos do cover round 13, and I think with Ponga being back this week, if Ponga can make it through until Origin, I still think Ponga will be the one who's picked for fullback for Queensland. I think the way he played in Game 3, unfortunate as hard as it is to say as a New South Welshman, Ponga was amazing in Game 3 last season. I don't think Queensland are going to take that lightly. I think they will pick him if he's available. And I don't think Walsh will make it at that point. So if Walsh is playing round 13, I'll want him for that point as well. So I'm kind of thinking I might just hold him for now. Latrell is someone's actually made a good point. Walsh to Garrick. Would I do Walsh to Garrick? Probably not. I'll do Val to Garrick before I did Walsh to Garrick, if that makes sense. Manu or Teddy, I'd still go Manu, because I think fullback, there are enough other better options, in my opinion. Walsh, Turbo, Latrell, I'd rather have all three of them ahead of Tedesco, I think, still to this day. It's hard for me to say because Teddy's a SuperCoach gun, but just not seeing it eye test wise, I think. So I'd still probably go Manu, I think, over Teddy. And obviously Teddy will play Origin, so there's always a chance that he may miss games as well during that period of time for the Roosters, whereas Manu, is going to be locked in. Would I do Latrell to Turbo? For people who are owning Latrell, will think about it. I think if you're going to if you're set on captaining Turbo, I'd do it. If you're not, I wouldn't, because I think you've got a perfectly good option in Nico Hines, I think, to captain this week. And I think we've seen from Latrell that he can score fine against good opposition. Penrith is tough. Penrith is obviously the toughest one, so he might go like 60. Turbo could go 120. But you've banked the points from Latrell, so I think, well, actually, that's a good argument. You've banked the points. Could you now just take those points and run and move to Turbo? I still think I'd rather have Turbo this week for sure, but let's put it this way. If Mitchell to Turbo got you the funds to go like Campero to Garrick, yeah, I'd do it because you are making a certain decent amount of cash going down to Turbo this week, and you're getting in the likes of Garrick. Yeah, I'd probably do it in that situation, but apart from that, probably not, because I don't think Turbo is still 100%. As ToolPro says, he has had a hit pointer, which is, NRL Physio doesn't hate hit pointers. It looks worse than it actually does in terms of player performance. That's something that he's always mentioned with hit pointers. Surprised no Kennedy in fullback talks. I personally just think they're just overall better fullback options than someone like Kennedy. Like, I haven't even got Dylan Edwards in here. I think those kind of guys, the Kennedys, Edwards, Guthersons, probably all going to be more considerations, I think, during State of Origin period, because all of these guys, except maybe Reece Walsh, will play State of Origin if they're fit and healthy. And yeah, in terms of the stats, I've put the stats below me, but doesn't really tell us too much. But yeah, I wouldn't do Walsh to Tedesco. I'd probably go Walsh to Turbo, because again, I think you're freeing up a good amount of coin that can get you an upgrade somewhere. But I wouldn't do Walsh to Teddy, if that makes sense. All right, we'll end that part there. Harry Grant to sell is the next question I can see from Art. Funny you say that. I swear I did not read your mind and just think about this, but the next slide is titled Grant to sell. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I'm just conscious of time. We spent so much time talking about center wings. For me, Grant is not yet a sell. I know a lot of people, I think in round 9 will be looking to move him on, and Jeremy Marshall-King is probably one who stands out as maybe someone who covers the round 13 bye. He won't play State of Origin. The thing I will mention with Jeremy Marshall-King is that he himself has a bye in round 11. So yeah, you could sell Grant in round 9 to Jeremy Marshall-King, but then in round 11 you're going to have the same issue where you're going to have to rely on your backup hooker. So just something I wanted to keep in mind. I'm personally thinking that with Grant, I think I'm going to ride it out. It's a bit more team dependent. I've got Reed Marnie there currently, so I know I can just cover Reed Marnie in round 9 when he's got the Dragons. So I'm probably not as much of a rush to sell Harry Grant. I think there's definitely a case to sell him though, but he played reduced minutes during Origin last season, but that was also with Brandon Smith at the club. No more Brandon Smith at the Storm makes me think that Grant is going to have to play just more minutes in general. So I do think that he will probably have to be relied on a little bit more during the Origin period than he has in previous seasons. And I know last week was a down week, but the quality of the player makes me think that I want to still give him the opportunity to bounce back. Because prior to that, he went 65, 81, 44, 105, 74, 91. Like he is just the best hooker for Supercoach. But yeah, I think round 13 there is an argument to sell. Because he's probably going to miss round 13 with Origin. He'll miss round 16. Probably another thing that's worth mentioning with Grant, I think he will probably still maybe play more minutes during the whole Origin period, because if Queensland keep doing the Ben Hunt Grant combination, he might only be playing 40 minutes a game of Origin. So there's a better chance that he does back up. So yeah, Grant for now to me doesn't feel like a sell, but definitely one that I'll be monitoring, I think, as a potential option to downgrade or sell. And I also just think that the other hooker options, apart from maybe Jeremy Marshall-King, I like him for round 13. Reed Marnie, I wouldn't be going out and buying Reed Marnie, nor would I be buying Robson. He's just really not been killing it. And Damien Cook's the same boat, where he'll probably play State of Origin. In terms of some of the downgrade or cheaper options, I know there's been talk about Jake Granville, but I just don't trust Todd Payton and his rotation with forwards, and Granville's been named again on the bench, so I'm not sure how good he's going to go. Brandon Smith, I think we probably were all a bit excited by Smith at the beginning of the season joining the Roosters, but look, I know he scored a try last week with a line break, but minutes the minutes are about the 60s, which is kind of what we expect, but he needs to do a lot, I think, to get to 60. He's only cracked 60 once this season, which was last week, and that had to include a line break try. The other time he scored a line break try was 54. Other games, 38, 52, 40. I mean, the price is okay, but it's kind of awkward around the 451k. Like, even if you were selling Harry Grant, yes, you're making 250k, but I'd rather just have Grant. So I'm not loving Cheese at the moment as a downgrade. Yeah, so for me, at the moment, Grant isn't a sell, I think, at this stage. Mitch Kenny, I think Mitch Kenny did play 80 last week, didn't he? But not someone I traditionally see as an option of Supercoach. He scored 55 last week, but I've looked at his stats before. He is a cheap price at 311k, but I don't know. I feel like if you're going to downgrade someone, try to get someone who covers round 13, which would be Marshall King for me. But I probably wouldn't be targeting Marshall King until maybe round 12, just once he's... I mean, this week is a good matchup against the Titans, for sure. But yeah, I don't think I'll be selling Grant at this stage. All right, just conscious of time. I'll quickly jump on 2 RFs. I know I haven't really spoken about second row forwards yet to this point. Someone's asked what my thoughts on Hopgood. I think, look, if you're a Hopgood owner, I think you just hold for now. I think he played pretty good minutes last week. He got named to start at the final team change, so a bit frustrating. I wish I had that information a bit earlier. I probably wouldn't have sold him, but he played 70 minutes, scored 61, 55 in base, so pretty good numbers that we expect from him. I think if that rotation continues, where comes off the bench but plays the good minutes, or because Cartwright's been named again to start, but always a chance that Madison goes to the edge, Hopgood goes to lock, and Cartwright goes to the bench. If they keep doing that, then I think Hopgood is going to be fine for minutes. I'm just going to double check that that's actually what happened in terms of the rotation. Yeah, Madison's been named at lock, Cartwright starting, and Hopgood on the bench. But yeah, I think if you're a Hopgood owner, I think you hold now, at least indefinitely. Because I don't think he's got a very high break even. His break even is 53, so he's probably just going to hold value, I think, around his price tag. Oh, Tom J, you've done it again. What is going on here? Another 50. Surely this isn't even like I don't even know how this is happening, because there's not even that many people, I think, watching the stream. So I don't even know how this is happening. But Tom J, you're legend. Look, massively appreciate it. I'm kind of stunned, to be honest. I don't know what to say. Preston's break-even is 75. Thank you for letting me know. I did pull this slide at the very last minute, so that's probably why some of the numbers are a little bit off. But his break-even's not 100 and whatever I had. It's 75. 75, yep, I fixed it. Thanks, Peter, and thank you, Israel, for correcting that. But yeah, so I think Madison, just on the topic of Madison, I think he's a perfectly good buy. He's just been a proven Supercoach gun for ages. Only potential downside with him is that he might play Origin, but I do think that Olaquat is probably going to be the one who may take that spot. Maybe even Angus, potentially, if he just killed it upon return, but who knows if that's going to happen or not. But yeah, Madison, look, he's just going to deliver at his price tag. He's expensive. He's 710k, but he will keep punching out 65 to 75s. So Madison is, I think, is a perfectly good buy. I think people selling Preston for him. Preston is not a must sell because he's been averaging about 60. Decent base power, average at 51, which is solid enough. But I think if you're looking to strengthen your second row, Preston is someone you can move on. It's not a must hold, and it's a definite upgrade to Madison. So I think that trade itself is fine. If I'm seeing someone mention Fafita, if you don't own Fafita, I would be prioritizing him above any other second row forward. I think he just has to be the one I think you target in second row forward, because he's just absolutely killing it. No tries, as Dan says, so he is probably due, but he's averaging very well, even without tries. I wanted to shout out Britton Nickera as well, just for having a really healthy average of 76, but he has been very try reliant and attacking stat reliant. You can see his average of 76, but 20 points of his average is made up outside of base power stats. So for me, he's probably someone who I think I'd still prefer Madison, The draw is good for Nicaragua, but I think Madison's just going to be a bit more rock solid for you. Seems to be is Eli Katoa a sell? Katoa's got a break even of 69, so I don't think he's going to go down massively in price. And I think last week was a really tough game against Manly. Like, they really took it to the storm. And I think we've seen enough out of Katoa that makes me think that he's perfectly fine, I think, as an option to hold. I think you can give him at least one more week. And look, if it's, again, another kind of 40-point game, you might go down to 560k, still at a value that you can probably move on, because he won't cover round 13. So maybe then next week you can reevaluate, and maybe you can move him on for like a Madison or some other second row forward, maybe a dual like a TPJ or a Joe Tarpany, for example. Some of the options that you could maybe consider. Tarpany a sell? I don't think Tarpany is a sell. Now just quickly moving on to front row forwards. I don't think Tarpany is a sell. I just think he'll be back next week, and he'll be good for the buy coverage and buy rounds. So I think perfectly fine option to hold, and it's just a spot I don't think you want to be using a lot of trades on. Alex gifted 20 memberships. These memberships are just flying out of the stream. Anyone who's watching this on a replay, I'm sorry to say, but you really should have been watching the stream live, because there was a probably 100% chance that you were going to get a membership. It's not happened for if you're watching a replay, but thank you, Alex, as well, for those 20. Unbelievable. The generosity and support, guys. Really do appreciate it. And don't know what more I can say. It is really humbling. Kurt Mann, interesting shout. So he, scored 67 in base last week. Jesus, 56 minutes for 67 base. Now that is enticing. I can't remember which position he plays, but maybe a shout. Maybe good to get one more week of a sample size from Kurt Mann. But that's a pretty enticing numbers he's got there. If you're looking at other front row forwards, someone mentioned about would I just play Stefano. That's what I'm doing this week. Looking at that Tigers bench, it's pretty weak. So hopefully Oitokumanu can get some minutes and just go back to getting out 45s to 50s. If he can get me 45 to 50s, I'll just be happy with that, I think, for the time being. Tohu or Tarpany? I should have put Tohu Harris in this list. Yeah, sorry, guys. No Tohu. It's purely because I forgot to do it last week, and I forgot to update this again with Tohu. So apologies. I probably should have given Tohu his just due. What did he score? He played 62 minutes last week. He's probably going to go back to just being an 80-minute man again from next week. And he's cheaper than Tarpany with a break-even of 83. If you're buying this week, so Tohu Harris has the buy around 12, and then he has the buy around 16. So he will miss the second big buy week. Tarpany obviously has a buy this week, plays round 13, but misses round 16. Now, I would probably normally say Tarpany because we know the upside, but definitely we're not seeing him offload as much as what we saw last season, whereas Tohu is just like just been rock solid. I still think I would go with Tarpany because of that potential for him to go big, and to be honest, the difference between the two of them is minimal. It's really not that much of a difference. So I think if you have to buy one this week, obviously Tohu because he doesn't have the buy. Of the two, I still think I slightly prefer Tarpany, but they could very easily just be number 2 and 3 front row forwards behind Payne Haas. Tarpany's got the upside. He hasn't shown it yet, but we have seen it. Tohu doesn't really have it as much, I guess. But definitely that you could just go with both. Sorry, Jordan, 170 gifts and not one for me, mate. That is variance at its worst. Unfortunately for that. Sorry about that. Although Robbie's saying apparently you have to enable gifts. So apparently you have to enable this setting to be able to get it. But hopefully you get it. The way the stream is going, there's probably going to be another 100 getting gifted because that's just what's happening. If you're going to go with an interesting pod, maybe TPJ, but not for me. Still just the suspension risk. I can't do it myself. I bought Gilbert last week. Sorry, he's not $597. He's $597,000. I got Gilbert last week just to kind of be a bit of a plotter. But yeah, I think with Tohu being so similar in price, I will just go Tohu instead of Gilbert. King is a shout, but I think upside's low. His high score last week was 80. I don't think he's going to really go higher than that most weeks. All right, let's quickly touch on captaincy because I'm very conscious of time. I need to jump off fairly soon. But yeah, captaincy this week, I think is obviously, there's quite a few good shouts. Cleary for me is not going to be someone I think I'll look to VC. I think with Hines having the Bulldogs, he will at least have vice captaincy, if not captaincy. Turbo is the other big shout with West Tigers. I think I slightly prefer Hines, I think, as a captain shout instead of Turbo this week. Mainly because of goal kicking from Hines just means that even in a game where he doesn't get that involved, he still has that ability to just have those extra 20 points that Turbo just won't get from goal kicking. Plus, but Hines is that central focal point for the Sharks, same as what Turbo is. And I just don't think Turbo is playing at 100%. And it just makes me think that Turbo is good for maybe 110, 120, which is obviously great. You will 100% take that as your captain. But Hines is just playing absolutely top notch. And I think Hines will easily go 140, 50 plus, if not higher. So for me, Hines, I think, is just shading it as a captain choice for me instead of Turbo. But a couple of other names I wanted to suggest here was Reece Walsh, Parramatta 5th in terms of rank to fullbacks. Manu 6th is the Dragons to 5/8. Maybe Garrick, but I think you'd probably just go. I'd probably just go Turbo if you're going for a Manly player. Maybe Fafita, but I think his ceiling is probably low compared to some of these other guys. So for me, if you can do a VC Hines C Turbo, that's probably how I do it. If you can't, I'd probably just edge it to C Hines. Tom J, I can't believe this. What is going on? Tom J is built different. Big man has just come out and gifted 200. I can't do it. Can we captain Tom J? He's just put out 200. We should just put Tom J as our captain. This is insane. Mate, Tom J, get in touch with me. You're an enigma at this point. A membership giving, donating enigma on my streams, but it's unreal. I probably should just mention anyone. You're all probably now members, which is awesome. You're all members now of the channel, which is amazing to see. So you will get access to this, a copy of this buy planner spreadsheet, and you can kind of plug in your team and have a look at how your team looks for future periods. So it's good for buy planning, especially as we get closer to the origin period. So Tom J is doing you guys a great service, and you all get to support me, which is good for me, but hopefully you all appreciate that as well. But mate, Tom J, what a man. Okay, that's all I'm going to say, I think, on captaincy. I don't want to spend too much more time on it. I will quickly go back to the downgrades because there was a couple of questions about Jacob Host and Schuster I've seen as well. I do like Jacob Host as a downgrade if you need someone as a play week in, week out because of this whole Kolomatangi injury. I think Host is probably looking good for minutes. He is a bit more expensive at 390k, so he's not like a genuine downgrade. If you're going for a genuine downgrade who you don't really need to play each week, I'd probably just go Schuster. He's been named to play this week and is a very good play this week, but if he's not someone that you need to play every week, I think Schuster's probably inconsistent enough or risky enough that we just don't need to do it. So for me, I would go Schuster over Host if that's the situation. If you need someone as a week-to-week play, I like Host as a downgrade, but probably just not cheap enough, I think, for my specific needs, I guess. Egan downgrade to who? So I think anyone who's owning Wade Egan, I'd probably move to Jeremy Marshall-King if you're going to buy a hooker brand new. Otherwise, probably Sonny Luke. I think still is probably one of the better hooker downgrades. Phoenix Crossland has been good and was good last week, but unfortunately he's only available, I think, in 5'8" halfback, so you can't get him at hooker, which is a bit of a bummer. Brendan Hands got moved back to the bench, so kind of killed him a little bit as a cheapy option as well. Jake Granville, you don't need me to talk about Jake Granville, just head over to the Dual Position podcast where the SE Whisperer will tell you everything you need about Jake Granville there. Right. I'll quickly just touch on my team, and we might only do maybe a minute or two of Q&A. I really do have to jet off soon, guys. Apologies. But hopefully we were able to address most of your questions this stream. And like the stream if you enjoyed it, and if you wanted to see Tom J just keep dishing out these memberships. How to do custom emojis. I think there's at the bottom a little smiley face, and I think it lets you do emojis. So I can do it actually right now. I can do a couple. So there's a little smiley face. So if you see the chat, I've just added in Tom J gifted me this. And it's called add reaction. So I think that's how you can do it. Okay, anyway. In terms of what I'm looking to do for trades this week, so I haven't changed my team at all. I will probably be boosting this week. Karaz is gone. Sorry, Karaz. Really wanted to keep you, but the injury changes things. So Karaz has got to go. Garrick will come in. I'm short on funds, so I will need to downgrade, and I will probably be downgrading the cheap. I think all my trades are actually in the center wing this week. Campera will be going to a cheapie. I want to get Manu as well. So basically what I can do is I can do Warbrick and Campera out for Garrick, Manu. Whereas Manu sold by highest price. He's about 620k. There he is. And I need someone who's 239k. So this, in my particular situation, I need to go Dunster, which I don't love. But we spoke about it at the very beginning of the stream, or towards the beginning of the stream. It's kind of who I'd slightly prefer. So it leaves me with 4k in the bank, and it would be my second boost, only the second boost, so I feel okay using it. But I'm getting rid of an injured player and 2 cheapie center wings for 2 absolute guns and another cheapie. So I kind of feel okay with those particular trades. So if I would, and I've been pretty, after doing it, I was like, yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. And then I'll play Manu. I won't play Taruva this week. That's probably the one thing, because of the Rabbitohs game. I haven't actually worked out yet if I can do the VC loop, but assuming I can, it'll be Turbo Captain VC Hines, and I probably won't play Reed Marnie with the matchup against the Sharks, and I'll probably play Schuster instead, just because of the Tigers matchup. And I mean, I could play one of Ford or Reed Marnie. That's probably a decision for me to make. Edges against Melbourne from Ford or Reed Marnie, I mean, they're probably about the same, so it's not really too much of a big deal. But I'll be playing one of those two, and that would be pretty much the team, I think, set to go. And yeah, that would leave me with 32 trades next week. I don't even have to sell Harry Grant because I can just plug in Reed Marnie, who's got the Dragons next week. I don't have to sell Welch because I've got Manu who can play. And in terms of reserves, instead of Harry Grant, I can just play Taruva, who's got the West Tigers. So I haven't fully thought it out, but I do think that I like that optionality. But in terms of potentially doing the VC, if I VC Hines, I need a loop option afterwards, which I don't think I have, because Pele plays in the same game. Yeah, I don't think I can do the VC loophole this week. So I think I'll have to make a call on C Hines or C Turbo. I think I'll lean towards C Hines, if I'm being honest. And I think my VC then will have to be someone beforehand. So I'd probably just VC someone like Dill Brown maybe, or actually, you know what, I might VC Reece Walsh playing the Friday game. I might do that. That could be my team for this week. Oh my god, what's going on? Alex gifted 50 memberships. Tom J gifted 50. I'm not even surprised at this point. This is just par for the course, isn't it? Par for the course. I expect everyone who's watching these streams to just be a member now at this point. If you're not a member, you're probably just unlucky, very very unlucky, or you just don't have that setting on that lets you get these gifts memberships, because there's no other way I can explain how you haven't got it at this point. I'm going to put a challenge to you all. For the amount of memberships that were gifted this stream, can we get that many likes on the stream? That would be awesome, but I highly doubt it because I can't even keep count of the amount of memberships that have been gifted. But unbelievable. Appreciate it a lot. VC loop by avoiding Dunster and getting Howarth. I don't think it's worth nuffing out purely just to get the loop, in my opinion. So I don't think I'll be doing that. Play Warbrick or Taruva. Moz gifted 10. Moz, really appreciate that. Moz, you're a really big fan of the channel, so I do appreciate it. Tom Jay's gifted another 50. Mate, alright, I'm going to just put it out there. You guys, I really appreciate it, but I think you can keep it at that, because I don't think there's enough people on the channel to get these memberships. So quit my day job. I can't quit my day job. I still need to rock up to work to to pay the bills and to keep my ring light on so I can keep doing my videos. But yeah. Anyway, guys, I think I'm gonna have to wrap up the stream there. I'm a bit shook, to be honest, from all these memberships, and I'll probably wrap up the stream there. Apologies if I couldn't do a specific Q&A this week, but hopefully we're able to cover off most of your questions. Keep pinging the questions to me during the week. I'll still be available on Twitter, YouTube comments as well. But yeah, sorry I couldn't do a specific Q&A. I do have to just run at this point. But big shout out to Moz, Alex, Tom J for gifting these memberships. Just absolute legends. Really appreciate all of it, all of the support, and yeah, everyone in the chat as well. Give your big ups to these guys because they've just been so generous this week. That's right, there's 2,900 subs and Tom's going to do it all himself. That is one thing. I would love to get to 3,000 subscribers before end of the season. If these memberships turn into subscribers, then I don't have anything to worry about because Tom J has probably just blasted it through the roof. Anyway, gonna wrap it up there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Been an amazing stream as always. Love all of you for tuning in. See you all in the next one.